Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet Zar, and today I'm going to do something different. As you may know, I had my show opening 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, Saturday night, October 9th. My show called Chaos, my solo show. And I was working up to the very end. I'll get into that in a minute. It's ironically been chaos here. So I wasn't able to line up a guest for this week. So I thought maybe I'll just do a shorter show and just talk about the show because it was kind of amazing and interesting the way that everything came together and, getting ready for the show and just how the whole thing went. So if this goes well, I'll post it. If it doesn't go well, you won't hear this because I'll scrap it and I'll just take another week off. But, so anyway, I'm just going to talk about the show today and the experience of it. And I have some thoughts that I will save to the end that I think people interested in dark art will want to hear. I think it's, I'll get to that. So hang with me to the end if you can. It's probably going to be a shorter episode. I doubt I'm going to talk for 2 hours. I highly doubt it. I know I won't, in fact, because I have other stuff I have to do. And I don't even know if I'll make it past 10 minutes because it's very weird talking by myself. But anyway, so let's get on with the usual stuff I do, which is the new subscribers. There are a few this month, not many, but if you want to join and support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/darkartsociety and join for just $1. And lots of benefits, mainly the Facebook page, private Facebook page, which is great. I can't tell you how many people have made such great friends on there. Couples have happened, relationships. It's really great place to be for you dark artists and dark art lovers. So let's see, we left with so new subscribers. Aaron Cachero, wow, what a generous pledge. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron bought a piece called Crackhead from the Chaos show, and he wasn't able to make it out for the show, but I hope he likes it when he gets it. Ben Licata, thank you so much. And Danny Doo, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Hit me up on Facebook. Do a search for the Dark Art Society Cooperative on Facebook and then request to be let in. And we'll look you up and make sure you're in the Patreon and let you in the group. It's just a little added bonus. Okay, so let's get on with it. I'm not going to do the little break with the intro again. So let's see. Where do I start? Well, okay. Let me think about this. Gary wanted me to do a show at Copro last year because I didn't do one during the 2020, during the pandemic year. And which is good because I didn't want to. I've been doing a show a year, I think, with Copro, a solo show a year, plus conjoined since 2007 or something, 2006, and it's just killer. It's solo shows are tough because they're just grueling. They're a lot of work and not necessarily a lot of sales. That's the crazy thing about being a painter or a fine artist of any kind, really, is you're painting stuff and you don't know if it's going to sell. So you're spending, months and months painting and preparing for something and then hoping that things sell and you make money. And sometimes nothing sells. I've had shows where one painting sold. My show at Last Rites Gallery. One painting sold. And I busted my ass on that. I made custom sculpted frames. My first fully sculpted frames. I don't think it definitely wasn't the fault of the gallery. It was, the art market is weird. You never know when things are going to sell, what's going to sell. It's really unpredictable. Just one more reason why you should only do this as a career unless if you absolutely have to and you love it. It's a hard job. It's a very difficult career to manage and to make a living at. But I think they ended up selling maybe like one other one during the show at Last Rites. But that was the Faces of Death show. And yeah, I've had shows at Copro where I didn't hardly sold shit. I've had more shows where I hardly sold anything than shows where I sold a lot. And this show, actually, I sold a lot. I sold out the show, which was the first time. I think the first time. Like, usually what happens with my shows is that the average up until, the last few years maybe has been half the show will sell throughout the month. And then they keep the work, and then other people might buy over the rest of the year, a piece here, a piece there. And eventually the pieces sell, or I'll get them back. And within a year or two, people will hit me up and I'll end up selling them. But, I've got pieces still. At this point, I don't want to sell them because I want to have some old pieces. But I have pieces from the show I did with my dad called When Worlds Collide. And that was, what year was that? I don't even know. I'll have to look it up. But, I've got pieces from that show. Old pieces. I've got a couple pieces from 2002. And like I said, I don't really want to get rid of them now. I'm going to look up this show. Let's see. When was that? That was 2009. 2009. So anyway, point being, you never know if your work's going to sell. But this show was really different for me. So anyway, Gary wanted me to do a show because I didn't do it. I took a year off in 2020. And so he wanted me to do a show in 2021. We decided on October. And so I was thinking around January, I would start painting for the show and give myself 6 months, which is longer than I normally give myself to paint for a show. Like every show up to this point, including the Ego Death show and the Dystopia show, which are my two biggest shows I ever had, I think. Those I think I painted in 3 months, and it's just a grind. It's a grind. And so I was like, I'm going to give myself 6 months this time at least, and that's still not enough time, really. So January comes around, and it's just, I have to keep this business going, so if I remember correctly, I still had tool posters to doodle. I just basically had to keep earning money because I don't have enough money to not work for 6 months. No way. It's the money I make goes back into my business. Anybody who owns a small business knows how it goes. So if I have a great year, it's not like I'm sitting on all this cash. It's like it goes back into the business. So I kept planning on starting January, then February comes and I'm like, okay, well I got, 5 months. And then it's like, okay, I got 4 months left. And it finally got to a point where I don't know when I started those studies. Well, I guess when I started the studies is if you're on my Patreon, my personal one, which is patreon.com/Chet Zar. I'll look while I'm talking. When I started the studies, that was sort of like the starting point, but I didn't start painting the paintings. Let me see. I'll find out in 1 second. Anyway, so I realized time was running out. I had to get ready for the show. I had to start painting for the show. So I started doing these studies, and I was really feeling uninspired. I was exhausted because I just, haven't gotten a break. Just exhaustion. So hold on. I'm going to look these up. I want to see if I can, get a date when I started these studies. Come on. Once again, totally unprepared. But I'm just trying to get an extra episode in that otherwise I would just not do. Okay, I'll get into painting these studies. So I started painting these studies, posting them on my Patreon. I felt uninspired. I was just kind of doing, I don't know. I wasn't really into these. I didn't paint anything. When I first started, I was like, these just aren't that great. And I remember at one point, I was so frustrated, I just wiped the paint off of this one that I'd started and splattered some ultramarine blue and some alizarin crimson just out of like anger and being pissed off, like, fuck this, it's not working. And then I was kind of like, that looks pretty cool, really, this blue and red together. And so I went with that. And I painted the first one, which ended up being called The Architect, Agent of Chaos #1. Because I imagined him being kind of the boss of them all. The whole theme of the show was chaos, and me imagining these kind of evil, dark spiritual forces were behind the insanity of 2020. That was sort of my starting point with this show, hence the name Chaos. So I started messing around with this red and blue color palette, and I made the first few, and I was really digging it. It kind of inspired me, just the color palette, because it was so different. I'm very much like an earth tone type guy, and grayed out colors, and so I kept going with that. I was really happy with these studies, and I was posting them and on my Patreon, and everyone was really digging them. Like, I was getting lots of comments that they loved the colors, and so I kept going and kept going and kept going, just painting these studies, because not only did I need to prep for the show, I also needed to earn some money. So I was like, I got to sell these things too. So it was like a dual purpose thing there. So I ended up doing 33 studies or 35 studies or. Okay, let me see here. It looks like I was starting. Okay, I'm looking up when I started the painting for the show. Let's see. Looks like I'm doing some first passes around July, September. Yeah, so, okay, I'm getting there. And in between this show, I had to do something for Drakel, and I had to have a resin sale. It's like all this stuff just to keep the lights on here at my house. So, okay, sorry about this. I'm almost there. I've almost got it. Okay, looks like July 17th I was starting. July, August, September. Okay. July. Yeah, it looks like I started painting in July. The big paintings. Yeah, because the first thing I had to do before I started them was finish this commission that was 5 years late, which is Queen of Darkness, if you've seen that on my Patreon. But I guess I started the studies. Let's see. I painted those maybe in June. Let me see. I'm looking. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it looks like maybe June. Could have been May. I don't know. So I did a bunch of studies from June, I think. I'm going to keep scrolling here. And I'm looking at my feed. That's one great thing about having a Patreon or having an Instagram feed is you can kind of go through and it's like a diary of everything you've done. June. Yeah, and I had to do pin sales. Pins were coming out, so I had to stop and do pin sales, and oh my God, it was crazy. So yeah, we'll say June. I'm painting studies in June, knowing that I have to be ready to frame everything and take photos of everything. You know, the big paintings when they're done, and oh no, looks like it started in May. Okay, so I did studies from May until like July. May, June, July. So I ended up spending like the first it's probably more like 2.5 months or so on studies. And I knew that this would save me in the long run. But, you know, I could have started painting in May, painting the big paintings, but, you know, they would have taken twice as long because I didn't have them planned out. Having studies really helps me paint a lot quicker. So, and once I started those studies, it's like people loved them. And so I think I sold the first batch and they sold right out. And then I kept going with them because I was into it. I was like so inspired with these color schemes. And so then I sold those. This is all to keep the money coming in. And then around July, I started painting the final pieces. And, you know, there's a lot involved in painting for a show that you don't think about. Like I had to custom order I wanted to paint everything on aluminum panels because I'm into aluminum now. I love that surface. It's so permanent. It's, you know, really strong stuff. I don't have to worry about chipping the corners if I drop it like I would with a masonite panel. And so I had to buy all the panels from Trikel, which I love their aluminum panels, but they don't sell them in 24 by 36, which I wanted to do these 3 large paintings 24 by 36. So I had to custom order them. They offer that as a service, which is great. Like they'll make them pretty much any size you want. So they're expensive, but worth it. So I had to get these custom, get a custom quote, and you know, it wasn't just like you buy it from the website. You have to contact them and have them make, cut things the size you want and blah, blah, blah. Because they'll do all kinds of crazy shapes if you want, with whatever, or their laser cutter or whatever they got. By the time I started the paintings, I had, but by the time I was done with the studies, I think I had like 30-something studies, which is a lot. And it was mostly because I was into it and I was just inspired. So I started the big paintings. I picked, you know, most of them that I wanted to do. I knew my favorites, and I knew I settled on around 15 paintings. I was hoping for like 15 to 18, and I ended up only getting to 15. So I started painting the big ones, the full-size paintings. I had finished the studies. I had sold the studies. I asked people if I could hang on to them for a bit because I was using them for reference, just at least till I blocked them out. And once I started painting the big ones and posting pictures, the response was crazy. Like everybody loved these colors, and people started emailing me and asking if they could buy them, like pre-buy them. And I was like, yeah, you know, at first, the first few people, I was kind of like, yeah, just let me, you know, I'll put your name down and put you in touch with Copro Gallery. But it kept happening. People kept hitting me up about pre-buying paintings before they're painted. So that was just, it blew my mind. You know, not only have I never sold a show out before, I'd never had people contact me before a painting's even painted and asked to buy it. And so enough people started doing that Gary started taking deposits, and then we offered like a discount for people that pre-ordered, which is great for everybody. So basically people chose used the studies and chose the paintings they wanted for the show. And it was like, most of them were the most popular paintings and the ones I liked the most, which are, maybe the best ones, you might say, maybe, I don't know. It's all opinion. But, so we started taking the names down, taking deposits, and, but there were still a few that I wasn't sure about. There was maybe like 4 or 5 that I was like, there's 10 here that I want to do, but I have to pick like 4 or 5 out. And so then more people were still emailing me. So I was like, okay, these are taken, but if you want to pick out from these studies, pick one. And, if it's one I was planning on doing or one that I like enough to do for the show, I'll do it for the show. And so they were all ones that I wanted to do anyway for the show. So basically the people who were pre-buying kind of helped shape the show in a way. Like they helped to choose the paintings that were part of the show, that made up the show, which I thought was super cool. So the people that pre-ordered took part in the show, in the creation of the show. And it wasn't intentional. It just happened that way. But it was cool. I don't know if even people realize it. The buyers, hopefully they'll hear this and they will realize it. So it was really an interactive kind of thing that just, it's one of those things that you can't plan. So basically I was able to paint for this show, having all the paintings sold already. Just crazy. And there's a point to this I'll get to at the end. It's not like a flex or anything. You know me better than that. There's a point to this whole thing. So it was like the first time in my life I was painting for a show that I knew I was going to get paid for. And it took so much stress. There's so much less stress involved there. It was a totally different experience. It was great. So I was very inspired, and I was so into this color palette. So I was just painting away. I got interrupted a couple times because of, I think, some pin releases, and I still didn't have money. I was still having to bring money in. Gary kind of paid me once he got all the deposits. He paid me, so I got a chunk of money there, which was great, and that covered my bills so I could keep painting for the show. And but by this time, we're talking like late July, August, September, and the show was October 9th. So we're talking 3 months to paint 15 paintings, 3 24 by 36s, which are pretty big, and then 8 16 by 20s, and 7 16 by 20s, and 5 11 by 14s. That's a lot. It's a lot to paint in 3 months, but it's what I have done for the past 10 or 15 years or whatever. So anyway, I'm painting all these and going at a good pace, not stressing myself out, and then time just started running out and getting shorter and shorter and getting closer and closer. And I had to, my nights kept getting later and later, which is what always happens. And then next thing I knew, I'm staying up till 2 a.m. every night painting. And what usually happens also is I'm running the business during the day. So I'm dealing with customer service for my website, shipping things out, printing, packing slips, going through and, just running this business. And that basically takes up most of the day. And so I end up painting at night. So I'm usually starting at like 6 or 7, and then it goes on till like 2 a.m. So Anyway, as time went on, it went later and later and later, and I honestly don't have a good grasp of how long I was working these crazy hours, but I didn't take a day off. I didn't take a day off. Let me see. I'm sure I didn't take a day off since probably, January. After the holidays, I took some time off. But I don't think I took a day off yet, really. I still haven't taken a day off. Not really. Anyway, the last maybe let me see, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's hard to say. I would say the last 3 weeks at least before the show, it was just like working until 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And as time was getting closer to the show, it was like 6 in the morning. I was going to bed at like 6 a.m. And, the last week of the show, the last 2 weeks before the show, it was like going to sleep at 6 in the morning, getting 4 hours sleep, and then waking up and then getting back to painting. It was just crazy. So I ended up getting the paintings done because I can't, you can't paint up until the day of the show, which is what I used to do before I had my shit together. I remember a show I had in Germany called Stranger. I brought paint with me and I was painting in the gallery the day before the show, doing little touch-ups on the paintings because I wasn't quite done. But anyway, so I had to get everything done by, let me see, when did I get things photographed? Okay, this is October. I'm looking at my calendar here. Show opened. Oh, I had my photographer, I think he took photos for me. I dropped him off on Sunday the 3rd before the show, and then I picked him up Tuesday, and then I had to take him to my framer, and then he had the frames pre-made, and half the frames were gold because he was only able to get the molding I wanted, which is like gold with this silver kind of treatment on the edges. And so I had to take half the frames. He framed half of them with the black frames, and then the other ones he pre-made. I took those home and I had to paint those to match the finish of the black ones. And I'm getting confused in my timeline here. Yeah, so I had to paint like 7 frames. I had to spray paint them. I had to find this black that matched perfectly, and then I had to do the silver pass on these little strips around it, and then a little touch of this red because there was, I matched it perfect. Like the people won't be able to tell which was painted by me or painted by the frame manufacturer. I nailed it. I took my time, but it took me like 3 days to do that. So that was on top of everything else. And I had to sculpt the frame corners, which I cranked out and somehow came up with something I was really, really happy with in a day or two. It was like 2 days. And then Lee Shamel, who did the molds for me, somehow cranked them out in like a day or something. Usually it takes a day per mold. And I dropped them off Saturday. And that's the other thing. My kid, Fritz, he usually does work for me, but he had another part-time job. He usually does like driving for me. So I had to do all my own driving this time. So I had to drive out to Riverside, which is like an hour away, drop the sculpture off to Lee, come back, work on my paintings, blah, 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 drive back out and pick it up, drive out to the framer, drop the paintings off. It was just insane. And I'm, going on 4 hours sleep a night, 3 hours some nights. So I got the molds from Lee. I'm casting frame corners. I got some help doing my casting, and once I got those 7 paintings framed, frames painted, I had to drive them out to Van Nuys to my framer, which is like a 45-minute drive, drop them off so my framer could put the paintings in the frames, and then I had to bring the framed paintings back home so I could mount the corners. Then I had to drop the paintings that I once I put the corners on, I had to drop those off to Gary at Copro, and then go by my framers and pick the other. No. So now I'm getting confused. Okay, I dropped the painted frames off. The painted frames, okay, that's what it is. The frames I painted, I also put the corners on. So I dropped those off to my framer so that he would have the finished frames with the corners, and then he would put the paintings in them, and then Gary picked those up from the framer to take them to Copro. And then when I dropped those off, I brought the frames, the framed paintings that he had already done, I brought them home, and I had to put the corners on. And then my kid could work one morning, and that was the Friday before the show, to where he went and dropped the framed paintings, the finished last 8 paintings or 7 paintings off to Gary, and then he picked the other ones up. So it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I'm always bitching about working too hard and stuff, and it's like I was at my limit. I had a couple nights where I was going to sleep and thinking, I hope I don't die of a heart attack. I feel so tired. Can you die from being too tired? It was crazy. I hallucinated a couple times. I swore I saw my wife walk by, and it was just ridiculous. So it's not over yet, though. It's not over yet. We also decide, since the show is selling so well, that I should do prints, and we should offer some prints. And so we offered a print of each painting, 11 by 14 print on nice paper. And I have the ability to do all that here. So I printed. So I was printing. My normal paper was sold out that comes in a roll, which makes printing much easier because I just put a roll in and I could just print, and it just prints them out on a roll. So I had to buy cut sheets, which is still really good paper. It's just, it only comes in sheets. So I have to load them in, and it's really difficult. They don't always load in right the first time. So I was loading in paper into the printer, and then printing each individual print out. So we made an edition of 15 of the 15 paintings. And, I bought the backing, cardboard backing, and plastic to put them in so they look nice, so they're in a nice little package. And then Gary had an idea to do this portfolio, which is one of every one at a reduced price. It's like a portfolio of the show, which is a really cool idea. So we did 5 of those, and those sold out. And they come with a sketch, and we sold all 5 of those, and a bunch of individual prints sold too at the show, and before the show, and after the show. So I was basically printing prints. I didn't get them all done for the show. I just got like 4 of each done for the show, and I was printing the day of the show. I was printing. Lisa was, packing them in plastic for me and putting the cardboard backing in. And it was just a madhouse. So I didn't really get to rest before the show. It was like I worked, got up early, got about, a few hours. No, I got 6 hours sleep, which felt like a lot that night, the night before the show. And got up, printed, and just basically printed all the way up until I ended up being late to the show because of that. But I printed, and then I took a shower, got ready, and once then I had to sign everything and number everything. There's just so much. If you've never put a show on, especially kind of a big show like that, there's so many little things that you don't think about that go into making a show like that. So it was just crazy. There was a few times in the midst of it, towards the end, I was just like, this is terrible. Like, I hate this. Why am I doing this? This is misery. I'm in pure misery. It's so much. I mean, my back was fucked up. It was really ridiculous. And I'm not complaining now. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to tell you what it was like, because it was such a trip. It was just so much activity. And but we pulled it together like Copro shows. We always do. Same goes for the conjoined shows. When we do the conjoined shows, it's always total chaos up till the very end, and then everything just kind of crystallizes, and it's this amazing show that gets done just in time. So, show got done. They hung it. Steve McCorkle, we hired him to make these gas masks to hang in between each painting. Really nice wooden laser carved gas mask logos with a glow in the dark resin in them. And then he made a really big one that he had LED lights behind, so it glows from behind. Really cool. You can see pictures on my Patreon of that. I just posted more on Facebook. So as far as hanging the show, amazing. It was a great show. Gary took the painting I had done for the Blab show and included it just because there was nothing to buy, in case anybody wanted to buy something at the show. And it's that, if you're on my Patreon, it's the one. It's kind of like a floating head with a red background and these bandages kind of pulling opposite ways on the head. It's cool. My son's band is using it. Kodo and the Plagues is his band, and they're using it for their album cover. So that piece, I did that. That was part of the series of the Chaos show, but it felt a little bit like the Odd Man Out because it was a floating head. It was a little, I don't know. It fit color wise, but I felt like it sort of didn't fit as well as the others. So I ended up using it for the Blab show, which is another thing that happened while I was painting for the show. I was like, oh yeah, I have to do a painting for the Blab show I agreed to 6 months ago. Forgot about that. So I just basically took that painting and put it in this the Blab show, which is a group show Copper does every year. And so that one didn't sell in the Blab show. So Gary put it in with the Chaos paintings, which was cool because it kind of was originally intended for that. So that piece didn't sell at this point. It hasn't sold. But all the other ones, like I said, were pre-sold. And then 2 other paintings sold that Gary had, old paintings, like big ones, like a 30 by 40 and a 24 by 36. This painting called Fiend and a painting called Under a Dead Moon. So it was amazing sales. Like, I've never had that many sales at a show before with prints and everything. So I go to the show, Spooky Jack and the scullery out front, which is great, selling bones. Really was cool. And a lot of people showed up, especially considering it was a pandemic, show. Shows have been very slow there. And it wasn't like the Ego Death show or the Dystopia show where there was just like a crowd out the door and just craziness. But it was a good sized crowd. It was a kind of the perfect size, because when shows get too crowded, it's hard to see the artwork. And it's more of a social event. It's loud and there's just jam packed and people get all freaked out. I get all freaked out being in a crowd like that, like at Comic-Con or something. So it was really a good amount of people, and a bunch of collectors came out from different parts of the country, which was amazing. Steve McCorkle came out from Chicago, I believe, or some part of Illinois, and George Davis flew out from Texas, and Adam Bennett came out from Ohio, and Tyler and Brittany came down from, I think, Northern California or Bakersfield or so. I can't remember. I shouldn't have started naming names because I'm going to leave someone out. I know the three Bens came: Ben Long, Ben Sweet, and Ben Shannon. It's hard to. I've got the three Bens, I call them, three Ben collectors. It's hard to keep them sorted, but now I have faces that go to the names, so I can remember which is which is cool. So, if I left you out, I apologize. I know other people came from. Steve Doom and his girl came. George Davis brought his wife Amy. Louis came with his dog Raiden. I got to meet his dog Raiden. This is awesome dog. Vegas came. It's great to see him again. I know I'm going to leave someone out. I should have never started with the names. I'm sorry if I left you out. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that just because I'm still wasted, tired. You can probably tell my voice is all like, So anyway, it was great, really fun. I had one of the best times I've ever had at a show because it was not an insane amount of people. It was a little more subdued, so I actually could talk to people, even though it was difficult to talk to people because people kept wanting to talk to me and have me sign things, and it's like I want to accommodate everybody, and it's a difficult thing to do, but still I had a great time. It was just a great atmosphere, super positive, so positive. Oh my God, these shows, if you haven't been to a Copro show, these dark art shows are so upbeat, and that you can just feel the energy. It's like a good, positive energy. It's a trip. You can ask anybody. Ask anybody who's been to one of these shows. There's never a bad vibe. The people who go are just so cool. They're like kind, nice, thoughtful people. There's not a lot of assholes there. It's just a trip. It's like, I say this all the time. It's so weird. It's odd how nice the people are. It's like, in society, there's like a certain percentage of people that are just assholes, and it's just a given that they're always going to be there. Like a certain percentage of wherever you are, there's going to be a certain percentage wherever you are with groups of people. There's going to be a certain percentage of assholes, and it's like there really isn't that I could see at these shows. So again, it's the dark art crowd is just the coolest. Dos Diablos and his girl Karina, who's also an awesome artist, Caricatura. She was there. Chip Joslin was in from Texas. Chris Velasco, that's more of the story that's coming up. Chris Velasco's art barbecue the next day. Matt Levin. I'm not sure if you pronounce it Levin or Levin, but he's an amazing sculptor. He came out from Georgia because he just moved to Georgia. I'm trying to get at least the people that came from out of state because wow, Levi came out. He's kind of a new collector. He came out from I forgot where. Somewhere out of state. Anyway, really great, super great show, excellent time, good vibes. Halloween candy was flying around. Everyone was enjoying themselves. My son Fritz and his fiance Karina were doing the bartending. It was super great, so much fun. So the night ended around midnight. I ended up showing up like at 8. I was totally late because the show started at 5. Midnight comes around. I finally get to go home. I'm just like, it's all over. It was such a relief. And So the next day, which I normally would have been just sleeping, Chris Velasco, who's, my biggest collector. I think he's bigger. He has more pieces than Guillermo does of mine. He's got Black Magic. He's got Ego Death. He's got like some major pieces. So he's kind of my biggest collector. Super great guy. Really amazing musician, composer. He does music for video games. And just a great guy. And his wife, Erin, super cool. So amazing. Just such a great group of people. It's strange. It's strange how cool these people are. Anyway, the ratio of cool people, I guess. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Anyway, so he had this art barbecue in his new house because he just bought a house. And he's got like a crazy art collection. So after, conjoined shows, or sometimes I'll have a big show. I didn't even mention, I forgot to mention, Dos Diablos had a show too. He was at the show with me. Sorry, Dos. He had a wall in the main room, the fourth wall. He had I think seven pieces or something, but really great. We kind of asked him at the last minute, and he came through, and just his stuff is so great. I've talked about him. He's been on the podcast twice, I think, and I talk about him all the time. He's like one of my favorite artists. Just beautiful work, amazing work, and another super positive, amazing person. And so is his girlfriend Karina. She's amazing, really nice. So the art party. So Chris Velasco sometimes has these art barbecues where he'll invite artists from the show over to his house, check out his collection, hang out, have food, drinks, and it's always really fun. He throws a great party, and it's always really chill, and everybody gets to walk around and see the art. He's got a ton of my stuff. He's got a bunch of Chris Mars paintings, or he's got a few Chris Mars paintings. He's got a bunch of what's his name? Darius. I can't think of his name. A Polish artist who's amazing. Is it it's not Darius, is it? Wait a minute. Zawadzki. I think that's his name. Just amazing artist. Like, artist. Let me look him up. Zawadzki. Kind of got a Beksinski vibe, but just such a great painter. Oh my God! So Chris has a bunch of his paintings. He's got a bunch of let's see. He's got a Chris Cooksey. He's got Clive Barker. I'm totally spacing. He's got a huge collection. He's got everybody, all the really great artists, the dark artists. He's got them. He's not really missing any. he's got everybody. It's huge. So it's just so fun to go and see art and get inspired and hang out with cool people who love dark art, that are really nice and fun to be around and smart and just great people. So I brought Gabe Leonard with me to the party. He hadn't met a lot of these people, so that was fun hanging. It's always fun hanging with Gabe. He's a really good friend of mine. So it was just a blast. The part, I didn't drink or anything. I was the driver, so I picked him up. We drove out there, and had a great time. It was super fun seeing everybody. What else? I guess that's it. Gary and Erica were at the party, and of course, Gary and Erica did an amazing job putting the show together. I forgot to say that the show looked so good. Erica always hangs it like amazingly perfect. They've got a system, the way they kind of work together. really did just an excellent job. They just did such a great job. I'm always happy with Copro shows, and I feel so lucky I'm able to show, like, my main gallery, or my only gallery at this point, really, as far as having a home-based gallery, is Copro, and it's also my favorite gallery. Even if I wasn't showing there, they show my favorite artists, so it's really cool. And they always kill it. They always just do a great job. So thank you, Gary and Erica. Thank you, everybody who came to the show. And thanks, Chris Velasco, for having an amazing party, and the people that, bought paintings from the show. It's a milestone for me to have those kind of sales, and I'm getting to my point. I'm almost there to my main point that I think is the most important part of this. What was I going to say? I lost it. Yeah, I don't remember. Well, like I said, great show. I went home that night, dropped Gabe off. My sleep schedule's all screwed up, so I was like sitting there until 2 a.m. I came home, didn't stay too late. Probably stayed until 7 or 8, and just chilled and slept. Slept in the next day. And I have another little painting due this week for some project I got hired to do. So I'm kind of doing that, but it's fun and easy and small, and I'm not pressured to do it super fast. So, but I got to get it done by Friday, so I guess it's kind of fast. Oh my God, I was just looking at Zawadzki paintings while I was talking. Oh my God, he's so good. It just kills me. He's one of these artists that pisses me off. I see his stuff and I'm like, that guy, that mother. There's a lot of artists that I admire like that. I feel the same way about Dos Diablos. I feel the same way about Gabe's stuff. This guy's just I just love it. I love everything about it. I love the subject matter. I love the colors. It just kills me. Anyway, check him out. Darius Zawadzki. Zawadzki. I'm not sure if he speaks English or not, but I would love to have him on the show. It's just beautiful, beautiful work. Anyway, I guess I'll get to my final point, which is the important point. The important thing isn't like, I had this amazing show and I made all these sales. I mean, that's important personally to me. It's not something I take for granted. I don't expect it to always be this way. So often in the past, I've had these peaks and valleys in my career, and so often I'd have like a great show or a great sale or something, and I'd think, I can relax now. I finally made it. I made it. I don't have to bust my ass anymore. And then things go back down and sales are slow again, and then I'm like, oh man, okay, I guess that wasn't it. So I never assume it's just going to stay that way, and you can't take it for granted. One time I asked, I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not in the podcast, but I talked, Olivia was at the show. Olivia, the famous pinup artist from, I think, Playboy in the 80s and 90s. She did all those, if you've seen her work, she was published everywhere. But she's part of the Copro crew. She hangs out. She's awesome. She's super awesome. Her husband, Joel, they're both great. Anyway, I remember talking to her once at the LA Art Fair. I was complaining because my back hurt because I had been painting for a show and I was killing myself. And she actually got up and gave me her chair to sit down on because I was holding my back like a pregnant woman. And I said, yeah, someday it won't, I'll get to a point and I won't have to work so hard. And, she's been in this game a lot longer than me. And she's like, it's never going to happen. straight out. She was like, "It's not gonna happen. It's all. This is the way it is. This is how the art life is." And so that was kind of a bummer to hear, but at the same time, I was like, "Yeah, I kind of knew it in the back of my mind. No matter how good you got it, there's always going to be hard work. It's a hard job. It's a hard job." So anyway, to my main point, to the important point, if you listen to this show, you're probably a fan of dark art and or a dark artist. If you're not a dark artist, that is totally fine too. This is a side note. I'm going to make you wait a little bit longer. This is a side note because I've been thinking about this a lot. Now, the idea to start using the term dark art, and I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. The idea to start using the word dark art was like, my concept behind it was like, everybody calls it that. Let's just use it, and then we won't have to worry about a name for what our movement or what we're doing is. Everybody, and it's descriptive enough to where if you say dark art, people generally know what you're talking about. Makes it easier to talk about, which is important. It's kind of important. So we started all embracing this term, and it's great, and I think it's been helpful to us as artists. But the negative that comes out of that is that I feel like it kind of alienates other artists that maybe don't totally fit. Like Gabe Leonard, for example, he's not a dark artist, really. He doesn't feel like, he doesn't have like I think he bills himself as the cinematic artist, but it's like a marketing thing. And it's like, he just paints cool shit. He's a great painter. And sometimes his stuff goes dark. He's got an amazing painting with these two clowns at night in the desert digging a hole and like looking down at you. It's so cool and creepy. But generally, he wouldn't call himself a dark artist. Point being is that I like to think of the dark art community as kind of like the tattoo community. When I started getting to know people in the tattoo community, they were always like, you know what, a lot of people are prejudiced against people with tattoos, but we tattoo people. We don't care if you don't have tattoos. It's not like we're only friends with people with tattoos. It's like, it doesn't matter to us. We're just fans of art and we tattoo. So they at least the ones I met, they had a really cool attitude and not exclusionary. They were open to different types of people. You didn't have to be like a tattoo freak to be a friend with a tattoo artist. And I think that it's important that we keep this dark art thing inclusive and allow people to feel welcome. Like, you don't have to be a dark artist to be part of the Dark Art Society. We're less marginalized than we used to be. We're still marginalized by the mainstream fine art world, but who isn't? Most people are. Most people don't make it into that mainstream art world. So I guess my point is that I feel I don't want anyone to feel like they have to start changing their style to fit in with dark art people. It's like, paint, do your thing, and you're still welcome in the community. If you can paint, if you got passion for it, if you love, you love dark art, but you paint, or even just appreciate dark art, but you paint totally different. You paint light stuff, you paint cute stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you're welcome. That's the way I see it. You're welcome, and I think this it's just when you are a marginalized group, like we are kind of, or I've felt that way. I think most people who do dark stuff feel a bit marginalized. It's easy to kind of cut yourself off and set yourself apart from everybody else and be like, yeah, we're doing our thing. We're special. You don't belong with us. And I think it's important that we never do that. That we build bridges with other art communities, totally different art communities. There's a greater art community that is just as important as our little community. So I think it's important that we just keep that in mind. Don't be exclusionary. Don't be anybody who's an artist is legitimate in my book, or is, someone worth knowing, or being an ally of. It's like, if you love art, that's the criteria, really, for being part of this, is if you love art. And the dark art thing, it's ultimately a way to talk about things more easily, and a way to, my spiel, I've said it a million times. It's a way to, it serves many purposes, but I just don't think it should serve, I don't think it would be bad if it starts turning into like we're the cool kids, and people need to start doing dark stuff to fit in with us. I don't think that's cool at all. I don't like that. I don't like that people feel like they need to fit in, to a group, because, it's like, as dark art, it gets more popular. And I mean, I've heard people saying that, like they almost feel guilty they're not doing dark stuff. It's like, don't feel guilty. Be glad you don't have to deal with the hassles of it. It's kind of a pain in the ass if that's what you're drawn to do. It's like an extra barrier. It's already hard enough to be an artist. So I hope this makes sense. But anyway, that was a tangent. The main issue I wanted to get to, and this comes back to really us specifically as dark artists, the important thing about this show I had and having these great sales and great success, the most important thing is not for me. It is for the fact that dark art is starting to. You can be a dark artist and have a sellout show. You can be a dark artist and have a big show that people love, that brings in a lot of people, that you don't feel like a weirdo because you're painting this weird shit. There's, like I've said before, there's a huge audience. It's growing every day, and I kind of feel like the more again, I've said this before, but the more things keep going downhill, which they are, there are things, how everything is. It's crazy. Our artwork is reflective of that. It pairs better with reality, in a way, with what's going on right now. So I think the important message about this is that that I wanted to say is that this is great for all of us that are artists, all of us that are dark art lovers, dark art collectors. It means that we're coming into our own, and again, I've said this before, but this is really our time. This is it. This is the time for dark art. This is the time for dark artists. This is it. This is the time you've been waiting for. I feel that way, and you probably feel it too. You can see it. It's not that weird anymore. It's becoming accepted. It's like there's so many people that that see this kind of work and don't freak out like they used to 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think it's important, especially as things get more and more insane in the world. It's important that other people will have some artwork that makes them go, I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not crazy. That's what art's always done for me. It's made me feel like, someone else, I'm not alone in this. Someone else feels this way too, so I'm not crazy. It's not just me. There's something wrong. And we're taking what's wrong and making it what's right. If we're taking that and using that as our muse almost, and using kind of the alchemical process of turning lead into gold. We're taking something horrible, we're using that as like fuel, and turning it into something inspiring and hopeful and beautiful. So that's what's important. So, and we should feel this way when any dark artist has a great show and a successful show. It's good for all of us. It's that's why we should all be rooting each other on. It's like anytime a dark artist does well, don't be jealous. Be happy for all of us, because it just means that it's going to be better for all of us. I mean, this was the idea with the Dark Art Society. It's, trying to help the community and create a community that's there, just not kind of like connected. It was a community in the making, and it's still so small. What we've got going on with the Patreon and the Facebook page, the Facebook Dark Art Society Cooperative, it's really small. Big in one way. I don't know. It's like 400 people in there or something. That's a lot of people into this, but it's nothing compared to how many people actually love dark art, and it's nothing compared to all the people that don't even know they love it yet because they haven't really experienced it. I just think it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and becomes more and more relevant all the time. So it's something to be really happy about. And we need something to be happy about nowadays, I think. Things are so fucked up. This is like a bright spot in that, is that, our time has come. So get busy. Get to work. I don't know what else to say. Be happy. Don't take it for granted. Take advantage of it, and get your work out there. And also, if you're a collector or art lover, just you can be a part of this community by supporting the artists and sharing the work online, turning people onto it. That's huge. Just turning people onto it, letting them know it exists, letting them know it's okay to like it. This is more of a valid in certain parts of the country, I suppose, than others. It's not that weird in LA, but if you're in the Midwest, we're in a small town that's really conservative or something. It's you can be a lifeline to another person in that situation that thinks they're alone, and that's what this is all really about. It's about community and connecting and coming together for something bigger than ourselves, something we all love, and helping other people, really helping others to not feel so alone in this world. I think it's more important than ever, now that things are so crazy. More than ever, we need each other. And so anyway, that's my diatribe. I think I'm going to keep this one, and I'll post it. It's weird to do. I didn't think I would talk so long. It's over an hour. Jeez. Okay. Well, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, that's it. I'm all talked out. Thanks for listening. Again, Dark Art Society, or patreon.com/Dark Art Society. You can join the Patreon for $1 and become a part of the community. And if you want to see my stuff and all the time lapses, I got like 50 time lapses I got to do now, probably from the Chaos show. I have to edit together. There's going to be so much content coming up. You can go to patreon.com/Chet Zar. And yeah, I guess that's it. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this show. And maybe I'll do more like this if people like it. I don't know if I can manage to find something to talk about. I just felt really kind of inspired about this, and I didn't have a guest, so it all sort of worked out. I didn't want to leave you hanging for the week again. All right, so thanks everybody for listening, and goodbye, audience.